Captain Jinwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the New Seoul, watching the massive space station grow larger on his screen. The station looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness of space. Each petal was bigger than Earth's biggest city. This was Harmony's Edge, the meeting place where 12 different alien races came together to talk and make deals. "Sir, we're getting the docking signal," said Lieutenant Daeho Shin from his seat at the communications panel. His young face showed excitement mixed with worry. This was humanity's first real meeting with aliens, and everyone knew how important it was. Jinwoo nodded and adjusted his dark blue uniform. Earth had spent 2 years getting ready for this moment. Ever since humans discovered how to travel faster than light, they had been looking for other intelligent life. Now they had found not just one alien race, but 12 of them working together in something called the Galactic Council. "Take us in slowly, Daeho. We don't want to look like we're in a hurry," Jinwoo said. He was a tall man with short black hair and serious eyes. At 35, he was one of Earth's youngest space captains, chosen for this mission because he was smart and could stay calm under pressure. The New Seoul was humanity's most advanced ship. It was 300 meters long and painted white, with blue stripes. Inside, it carried Earth's best technology, including weapons that could destroy asteroids and shields that could stop nuclear bombs. The humans thought they had built something impressive. Ambassador Mireille Park walked onto the bridge wearing her best diplomatic clothes, a gray suit with gold buttons that showed she represented Earth's government. She was a small woman with long black hair tied back in a neat style. Her dark eyes looked worried, but she tried to smile. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" she asked, standing next to Jinwoo's chair. "As ready as we can be," Jinwoo replied. "Remember, we're here to show them that humans deserve to join their council. We've united our planet, stopped fighting wars, and built ships that can travel between stars. That should be enough." Mireille nodded, but something in her stomach felt tight with worry. The aliens had been very formal in their messages, almost cold. They had agreed to meet humans, but they hadn't seemed excited about it. The New Seoul docked with a soft bump that barely shook the ship. Through the windows, they could see the station's interior. Bright lights, moving walkways, and strange shapes that must be aliens walking around. "The docking tube is connected, sir," reported engineer Min Hee Kang from her station. She was young, maybe 28, with short hair and oil stains on her uniform from working on the ship's engines. "All systems look good." Jinwoo stood up and straightened his uniform one more time. "Mireille, let's go meet our new neighbors." The airlock opened with a hiss, and they stepped into the station. The air smelled different, like metal and something sweet that humans had never smelled before. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's, making each step feel important. A tall, thin creature with silver skin and 4 arms was waiting for them. Its head was shaped like a triangle, and it had large blue eyes that seemed to look right through them. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music being played through water. "Welcome, humans. I am Guide Theron of the Valix people. The council is waiting for you in the main chamber." They followed the alien through corridors filled with amazing sights. Creatures that looked like walking crystals moved past them. Others seemed to be made of colored gas that flowed and changed shape as they moved. One group looked almost human, but had green skin and eyes that glowed softly. The main chamber was enormous, bigger than any building on Earth. In the center was a circle of 12 strange chairs, each designed for a different type of alien body. The chairs floated in the air without any support that humans could see. "Impressive," Mireille whispered to Jinwoo. "Their technology is far ahead of ours." The aliens were already sitting in their floating chairs, waiting. At the front was a creature that looked like a living crystal mountain. Its body was made of clear, bright material that sparkled with inner light. This was Nexus Prime, the speaker for the Galactic Council. "Humans," Nexus Prime said, and his voice echoed through the chamber like the sound of wind chimes in a storm. "You have requested membership in our council. Tell us why we should accept your primitive species." Mireille stepped forward, trying not to show how nervous she felt. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but now, facing these powerful aliens, the words felt small and weak. "Honored council members," she began, Humanity has achieved great things. We have united our entire planet under one government. We have ended all wars between our people. We have built ships that can travel faster than light, and we have developed weapons and shields that can protect us from any threat. Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A creature that looked like a cloud of purple gas spoke in a voice like whispers. Unity. You still have crime on your world. Peace. Your people still fight each other every day. Technology. Your ships are slow and clumsy. Another alien, this one with scales like a snake and 6 legs, added, Your weapons could not scratch our weakest defense systems. Your shields would fail against a child's toy from any of our worlds. Nexus Prime's crystal body grew brighter. Young humans, you are like infants who have just learned to walk, demanding to run in a race with adults. Your species has existed, for a tiny moment compared to ours. We have been traveling the stars for millions of your years. We have seen 1,000 species like yours, proud, loud, and completely unaware of how small they really are. Jinwoo felt his face grow hot with anger. These aliens were treating humans like children, dismissing everything his people had worked so hard to achieve. He thought about the scientists who had spent their lives developing faster-than-light travel. He thought about the diplomats who had worked for decades to unite Earth's governments. He thought about the engineers who had built the new Soul and the other ships in Earth's fleet. Wait just a minute, Jinwoo said, stepping forward. Mirai tried to grab his arm to stop him, but he was already speaking. You're calling us primitive? You're saying our technology is weak? You're treating us like we're nothing special? Nexus Prime turned his crystal head toward Jinwoo. The other council members stopped talking and stared. The chamber became very quiet. Captain Kim, Mirai whispered urgently. Please don't. But Jinwoo was too angry to stop. The pride of his entire species was being insulted, and he couldn't just stand there and take it. If you think we're so primitive, Jinwoo said, his voice getting louder, then prove it. We challenge your strongest civilization to show us what real power looks like. Let them come to Earth and demonstrate this superior technology you keep talking about. The silence that followed was complete and terrifying. Every alien in the chamber stared at Jinwoo with what looked like shock and horror. Nexus Prime's crystal body began to pulse with dark red light. Captain Kim, Nexus Prime said slowly, and his voice sounded like breaking glass. Do you understand what you have just done? You have invoked the ancient protocols. You have issued a formal challenge under laws older than your solar system. Mirai's face went white. She didn't know what the ancient protocols were, but the fear in every alien's voice told her it was something terrible. Are you certain you wish to face them? Nexus Prime continued. Are you sure you want to wake the ones we do not name? The ones who sleep in the dark between stars? Before Jinwoo could ask what he meant, before he could take back his words, Mirai stepped forward. She thought this was just diplomatic language, some kind of formal procedure. She didn't understand the real meaning behind the alien's words. Yes, she said firmly. Earth accepts the challenge. We're ready to meet any civilization you think is stronger than us. The moment she spoke those words, alarms began ringing throughout the station. The aliens in the floating chairs immediately began to rise and move toward the exits. Some of them were making sounds of fear and panic. Nexus Prime's crystal body turned completely black. Then it is done. The call has been sent. They will wake now, and they will come. We must leave this place immediately. This entire sector of space will soon be unsafe. Wait! Jinwoo called out as the aliens rushed past him. Who is coming? What have we done? But the aliens were already gone, fleeing the station as fast as they could move. Within minutes, Jinwoo, Mirai, and their small human team were alone in the enormous chamber. Daeho's voice crackled over their communication devices. Captain, we're seeing ships leaving the station from every docking port. Whatever you said, in there it's got everyone running. Jinwoo looked at Mirai and she looked back at him. Both of them were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake, but neither of them knew just how terrible it really was. In the dark space, between distant stars, something ancient began to stir. Ships larger than moons started their engines for the first time in 10,000 years. The message had been received and the answer was coming. Humanity had just challenged the most deadly civilization among the cosmos, and they didn't even know it yet. Dr. Hyeri Choi rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. She had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to understand what the ancient protocols meant. The new soul was racing back to Earth as fast as its engines could push it, but Hyeri knew they needed answers before they got home. "Captain," she called out to Jinwoo, who was pacing back and forth in the ship's small research lab. "I found something in the alien database we downloaded from the station." Jinwoo stopped pacing and walked over to her desk. Hyeri was Earth's best expert on alien life, a thin woman with glasses and messy hair who forgot to eat when she was working on something important. Right now, her face looked worried and scared. "What did you find?" Jinwoo asked. Hyeri pointed at the screen, which showed strange alien writing that slowly changed into English as the computer translated it. "The ancient protocols are a very old law that all the alien races follow. When someone issues a formal challenge, it automatically sends a signal across the galaxy. The signal wakes up something called the Kethmore." "The Kethmore?" Mireille said, walking into the lab. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. "Who are they?" Hyeri's hands shook slightly as she scrolled through more information. "According to this, they're the reason the other alien races formed the Galactic Council in the IE2 first place. Not to work together, but to hide from the Kethmore. The database doesn't say much about them, but every mention makes it sound like they're something that eats entire civilizations." The three humans stared at the screen in silence. Finally, Jinwoo asked the question they were all thinking. "How long do we have?" "The signal travels faster than any ship," Hyeri said quietly. "It already reached them. The Kethmore could be on their way to Earth right now." Back on Earth, Admiral Tae-ho Yoon stood in the command center deep under the mountains of South Korea. He was a gray-haired man who had spent 40 years in Earth's military, but he had never faced a threat like this. The message from the new Soul had arrived 2 hours ago, and since then he had been working non-stop to prepare Earth's defenses. "Status report," he said to the room full of officers and technicians. "All 47 ships in Earth's fleet are moving to defensive positions around our solar system," reported Commander Junho Park, a serious man with scars on his face from the old wars before Earth was united. "We've activated every weapon satellite, every shield generator, and every early warning system we have." Admiral Yoon nodded, but inside he felt cold with worry. Earth's entire fleet was 47 ships. The alien database said the Kethmore had once destroyed civilizations that controlled thousands of star systems. How could 47 ships hope to stop enemies like that? President Soo-Jin Lee appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the World Government Building. She was a calm woman who usually smiled when she spoke to the people of Earth, but today her face was serious. "Citizens of Earth," she said, "we face a new challenge. Our first contact with alien civilizations has led to an unexpected situation. We may soon receive visitors who are not friendly. I want everyone to remain calm and trust in our military and our scientists. We have faced difficult times before, and we have always found a way to survive." She didn't tell them the whole truth. She didn't tell them that every simulation the computers ran showed the same result: complete human defeat in less than 1 day of fighting. On the new Sol, Lieutenant Dae-ho Shin was monitoring all the radio signals coming from other parts of the galaxy. His job was to listen for messages from other alien races, but what he was hearing made his stomach feel sick. "Captain," he called out, "you need to hear this." Jinwoo and the others gathered around Dae-ho's station. The young officer played a recording of alien voices speaking in panic. "The hunters wake again. Hide your worlds. Hide your children. It has been 10,000 years since they last moved. Who was foolish enough to wake them? We must flee to the outer rim. Perhaps the Kethmore will be satisfied with just one system," Hyeri translated as much as she could understand. "They're calling the Kethmore the Hunters and the Silence. It sounds like they haven't been active for a very long time. Some of these aliens are packing up entire planets and moving away from this part of the galaxy. They're running from something that isn't even here yet," Mireille said, her voice barely above a whisper. Engineer Min-hee Kang looked up from the engine controls she was checking. "Captain, I'm pushing the engines as hard as I can, but we're still..." 3 days away from Earth. If something's coming, it might get there before we do. Jinwoo felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. He had made the challenge that started all this. His pride and anger had put his entire species in danger. Keep pushing, Minhee. Earth needs to know what we learned. Far away, in the empty space between galaxies where no stars shone and no planets existed, something moved in the darkness. Ships that had been sleeping for thousands of years began to wake up. These were not ordinary ships. They were larger than Earth's moon, made of materials that bent space and time around them. The largest ship was called the Eternal Hunger. Inside its vast halls, creatures began to wake up from their long sleep. They looked almost human in some ways, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but they were taller, stronger, and built for only one purpose: hunting and killing other intelligent species. The leader of the Kethmore was called War Prime Vorthak. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin covered in scars from a million battles. His eyes were completely black, and his teeth were sharp like a shark's. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal grinding against stone. "Report," he said to his officers as he walked into the command center of the Eternal Hunger. "War Prime, we have received a formal challenge under the ancient protocols," said one of his officers, a female Kethmore with silver scars covering her face. The signal came from a system called Sol, from a species that calls itself human. Vorthak looked at the star map that appeared in the air in front of him. The Sol system was marked with a red light, showing where Earth was located. "Humans," he said slowly, tasting the new word. "How long since our last hunt?" 10,000 years, War Prime. The last species to challenge us was the Zilani civilization. We harvested their entire empire, 400 worlds, 12 billion individuals. Vorthak smiled, and his sharp teeth caught the light. 10,000 years of sleep. I was beginning to think no species would ever be foolish enough to wake us again. These humans must be very confident in their abilities. He touched a control, and the image of Earth appeared floating in the air. It was a beautiful blue and green world, covered with oceans and clouds. City lights sparkled on the dark side of the planet, showing where millions of humans lived and worked. "Scan their technology level," Vorthak ordered. The ship's computers reached across space and began analyzing Earth's radio signals, television broadcasts, and internet traffic. In seconds, they knew everything about human technology, human culture, and human military capabilities. "Interesting," Vorthak said after reading the report. "They are very primitive. Their fastest ships can barely reach the speed of light. Their most powerful weapons are simple nuclear devices. Their population is only 8 billion. Should we ignore the challenge, War Prime? They seem too weak to provide any real sport." Vorthak was quiet for a long moment, studying the image of Earth. Then he smiled again. "No. A challenge is a challenge, no matter how weak the challenger. Besides, it has been too long since we tested our abilities. These humans will serve as good practice." He turned to address his entire crew through the ship's communication system. "Warriors of the Kethmore, we hunt again. Set course for the Sol system. Maximum speed. Let these humans see what real power looks like." The Eternal Hunger and its escort ships began to move through space faster than anything humans had ever imagined. They would reach Earth in just 2 days. Back on Earth, Dr. Hieri had made another discovery in the alien database, and this one made her hands shake as she read it. "Jinwoo," she said when the captain came to check on her progress, "I found more. Information about the Kethmore. They're not just another alien race. They were created. Created? By who? An ancient civilization called the Makers. The Makers built the Kethmore to be the perfect hunting species. They made them stronger, faster, and smarter than any natural evolution could produce. The Kethmore were designed to hunt down and destroy other intelligent species." Jinwoo sat down heavily in a chair. "Why would anyone create something like that? The database isn't clear, but it seems like the Makers were trying to control population growth in the galaxy. They thought there were too many intelligent species competing for resources, so they created the Kethmore to thin out the competition. What happened to the makers? Hieri's voice became very quiet. The Kethmore killed them too. Once they had hunted every other species in the galaxy, they turned on their creators. Then they went to sleep, waiting for new civilizations to develop so they could hunt them as well. The new soul continued racing toward Earth, but everyone on board knew they were probably too late. Somewhere behind them, the most deadly hunters in the universe were also heading for Earth, and they would arrive first. Admiral Yoon received updates every hour from Earth's long-range sensors. The alarm screaming through Earth's command center sounded like the end of the world. Admiral Taiho Yoon stared at the main display screen, watching red dots appear at the edge of the solar system. The dots were moving fast, faster than anything humans had ever seen. "Contact at the outer sensor perimeter," reported Commander Junho Park, his voice tight with fear. "Multiple large objects detected." "Sir, they're huge." The largest red dot on the screen was bigger than Earth's moon. The smaller ones were each the size of major cities, but they moved through space like living creatures rather than machines. "How many ships?" Admiral Yoon asked. 12 confirmed, possibly more." "Sir, their energy readings are off the charts. Our sensors can't get accurate measurements because the ships seem to be bending space around them." President Sujin Lee appeared on the communication screen from her emergency bunker. Her usual calm was gone, replaced by barely controlled panic. "Admiral, are these the Kethmore?" "We have to assume they are, Madam President. Nothing else matches the descriptions from the alien database." On the New Sol, which was still a day away from Earth, Captain Jinwoo watched the same sensor readings with growing horror. Dr. Hieri sat at her workstation, comparing the energy signatures to everything they had learned about Kethmore technology. "Captain," she said quietly, "those ships are using power sources we don't even understand. The smallest one could probably destroy our entire fleet by itself." The Kethmore fleet moved through the solar system like death itself, passing the outer planets without slowing down. They ignored Mars, ignored the asteroid belt, and headed straight for Earth with single-minded purpose. Then the communication signal came. Every radio, television, computer, and communication device on Earth suddenly carried the same message. The voice that spoke was deep, cold, and perfectly clear. It spoke in Korean, English, Chinese, Spanish, and every other human language at the same time, the words appearing directly in each person's mind in whatever language they understood best. "Humans of Earth, I am War Prime Vorthak of the Kethmore. You issued a challenge under the ancient protocols. We have answered. Prepare for harvest." The message was simple, but the voice behind it carried the weight of 10,000 years of death and destruction. People across Earth stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky, knowing that something terrible was coming for them. Admiral Yoon activated the emergency broadcast system. "All ships, all defense stations, this is Admiral Yoon. Battle. Stations. Repeat. All units to battle stations, this is not a drill." Earth's fleet moved into defensive positions around their home planet, 47 ships against 12, but everyone knew the numbers didn't matter. The human ships looked like tiny insects next to the massive Kethmore vessels. Captain Jinwoo made a decision that would either save humanity or doom it faster. "Min-hee, push the engines past their safety limits. I don't care if we burn them out. We need to get to Earth now." Engineer Min-hee Kang's hands flew over her controls. "Captain, if I push them that hard, we might not be able to stop when we get there. Then, we'll go down fighting alongside our people." The New Sol accelerated beyond what its designers thought was possible, racing to join a battle they couldn't win. War Prime Vorthak stood on the bridge of the Eternal Hunger, looking at the image of Earth that floated in front of him. His black eyes studied the blue and green world with the interest of a scientist, examining an interesting specimen. "Analysis complete, War Prime," reported his second-in-command, Subprime Kareth. "Human technology level is approximately 10,000 years behind our current capabilities. Their nuclear weapons could not damage our hull plating. Their ships move like floating rocks." Vorthak nodded slowly. "And their numbers?" 47 combat vessels, Total crew approximately 15,000. Planet population 8 billion, mostly concentrated in large cities. Disappointing, Vorthak said. I had hoped for more of a challenge after such a long sleep. Still, let us see what these humans can do. Sometimes the weak species surprise us with their desperation. He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. Human vessels, this is War Prime Vorthak. Your challenge has been accepted. You may fire when ready. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Yoon's voice, transmitted from Earth's command center. Kethmore ships, this is Admiral Taiho Yoon of Earth Defense Command. We did not mean to challenge you. This was a misunderstanding. We ask that you leave our system in peace. Vorthak laughed, a sound like grinding metal. There are no misunderstandings under the ancient protocols, Admiral Yoon. Your representatives issued a formal challenge. We have accepted. One of us will be destroyed today. It will not be us. Admiral Yoon closed the channel and turned to his command staff. Well, we tried diplomacy. Commander Park, give the order to attack. Sir, you sure? Our weapons can't even scratch their hulls. Then we'll die fighting instead of begging. All ships, open fire. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Nuclear missiles flew through space like deadly fireworks. Particle beam weapons that could cut through asteroids focused their energy on the Kethmore ships. Kinetic projectiles moving at tremendous speed slammed into the alien hulls. For a moment, space was filled with explosions and light as humanity's most powerful weapons struck their targets. When the light faded, the Kethmore ships floated in space completely undamaged. The nuclear fire had simply passed through them as if they weren't there. Impossible, whispered Commander Park. Our sensors show direct hits, but there's no damage at all. Dr. Hyeri, watching from the new Sol, suddenly understood. They're not blocking the attacks, she said to Captain Jinwoo. They're existing in a slightly different space. The weapons are passing through them because they're not quite in the same reality we are. War Prime Vorthak watched the human attack with mild interest. Primitive but enthusiastic, he said to his crew. Now let us show them what real power looks like. Target their moon first. Use a single Void Reaper. One of the Kethmore ships, smaller than the Eternal Hunger but still massive, moved closer to Earth's moon. A section of its hull opened, and something came out that hurt to look at. It was shaped like a weapon, but it seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. Human eyes couldn't focus on it properly. The Void Reaper moved toward the moon at incredible speed. When it touched the lunar surface, something happened that broke every law of physics humans thought they understood. The moon didn't explode. It didn't break apart, or melt, or burn. It simply stopped existing. One moment, Earth's moon was there, a bright silver disk in the sky that humans had looked at for their entire history. The next moment, there was nothing. Not empty space, not debris, not even dust. Just nothing, as if the moon had never existed at all. On Earth, 8 billion. People looked up at a night sky that was suddenly wrong. The moon was gone, erased from reality itself. Tide stopped moving. Ocean waves became confused. Animals that used moonlight to navigate became lost. Dear God, President Lee whispered from her bunker. What kind of power is this? Admiral Yoon stared at his screens in horror. Every sensor that had been tracking the moon now showed empty space. It wasn't destroyed. It was gone, removed from existence as if someone had erased it from the universe. War Prime Vorthak's voice filled every communication device on Earth again. That was a demonstration, humans. We erased your moon to show you what awaits your planet if you continue to resist. We are not here to conquer you. We are here to harvest you. Your species will be studied, catalogued, and then eliminated. This is not personal. It is simply what we do. Captain Jinwoo felt sick as he watched the empty space where the moon should have been. Hyeri, is there any way to fight weapons like that? Dr. Hyeri was frantically searching through every scientific database they had. I don't know, Captain. That weapon doesn't destroy matter. It removes it from reality. Our physics can't even explain how that's possible. But as she worked, she noticed something strange in the sensor readings. The Kethmore ships were scanning everything. Not just human military technology, but every radio signal, every internet message, every piece of human culture they could find. Captain, they're not just here to destroy us. They're studying us. Look at these scans. They're analyzing our music, our movies, our books, even our social media posts. Why would they care about that? I don't know, but they're spending a lot of energy on it. Almost like they're trying to understand how we think. War Prime Vorthak was indeed studying the humans, but not for the reason Dr. Hieri thought. As his ship's computers analyzed human culture, they found something that made the ancient warrior pause. Subprime Karath, he said. Look at these patterns in human behavior. Karath studied the data flowing across their screens. War Prime, this is unusual. These humans act in ways that make no logical sense. They create art that serves no survival purpose. They risk their lives to save strangers. They make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. Vorthak nodded slowly. In our 10 million years of existence, we have hunted over 50,000 species. All of them followed predictable patterns. When faced with superior force, they either surrendered or fought using logical tactics. These humans are different. How so, War Prime? President Sujin Lee stood in Earth's emergency command bunker, surrounded by her top advisors and military leaders. The hour that War Prime Vorthak had given them was almost up, and they still had no good options. Surrender meant death. Fighting meant death. There seemed to be no third choice. Admiral Yoon, she said, what's the status of our fleet? Admiral Yoon looked older than he had that morning. The stress of facing an impossible enemy was showing on his face. All ships are in position around Earth, Madam President. We're ready to fight, but our weapons can't hurt them. They exist in some kind of different space that our attacks just passed through. Dr. Hieri's voice crackled over the communication system from the New Sol, which was now only hours away from Earth. President Lee, this is Dr. Choi. I think I've found something important. Go ahead, Doctor. The Kethmore have been scanning our entire civilization for the past several hours. They're not just looking at our military, they're studying our culture, our psychology, our behavior patterns. I think they're trying to predict what we'll do. President Lee frowned. Why would that matter to them? Captain Jin Woo's voice joined the conversation. Because they're hunters, Madam President. They've been doing this for millions of years, hunting other intelligent species. They're used to prey that acts in logical, predictable ways. But humans, we don't always act logically. Admiral Yoon looked at the communication screen with confusion. Captain Kim, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we give them exactly what they don't expect. Complete chaos. No battle plans, no logical tactics, no predictable strategies. We fight them like humans, not like military textbooks. Engineer Min-hee Kang, working frantically at her station on the New Sol, added her own discovery. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy patterns from their ships. Their technology is based on quantum certainty. Everything follows perfect mathematical rules. But our technology, ours is messier. Our quantum systems have uncertainty built into them because we don't fully understand how they work. Dr. Hieri's excitement was clear in her voice. That's it. Min-hee, you're brilliant. The Kethmore technology is so advanced that it eliminates all randomness, all uncertainty. But uncertainty might be the only thing they can't predict or defend against. War Prime Vorthak's voice suddenly filled every communication device again. Humans, your hour is up. What is your decision? President Lee took a deep breath. She looked around the command bunker at the faces of her advisors, seeing fear mixed with determination. These people were ready to die for their world, but maybe dying wasn't the only option. War Prime Vorthak, she said, we reject your terms. Earth will not surrender. Then you choose the hard death. Very well. All ships, begin the harvest. What happened next was unlike any battle in human history. Instead of forming orderly battle lines or following strategic plans, the human ships scattered in every direction. Some flew directly at the Kethmore vessels. Others flew away from Earth as fast as they could. A few ships began spinning in circles for no apparent reason. Pilot Sunho Jang commanding a small fighter ship, made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed in any normal battle. Instead of targeting the enemy's weapons or engines, he flew his ship directly into what looked like a decorative part of a Kethmore vessel's hull. His ship exploded harmlessly against the alien hull, but for just a moment the Kethmore ship hesitated. Its computers tried to understand why a human pilot would waste his life on such a pointless attack. Communications specialist Yaren Han, working from Earth's main broadcast station, began flooding every radio frequency with human music, movies, comedy shows, and random internet videos. She sent the Kethmore everything from classical symphonies to funny cat videos, from Shakespeare to social media posts about people's breakfast. The Kethmore ship computers, designed to analyze and predict enemy behavior, suddenly found themselves trying to process thousands of hours of human culture all at once. The meaning behind a joke, the emotions in a love song, the random thoughts of someone posting a picture of their lunch. None of it made sense according to any logical system, they knew. War Prime Vorthak stood on his bridge watching his tactical displays with growing confusion. Subprime Kareth, what are the humans doing? Kareth studied her screens with frustration. War Prime, I cannot determine their battle plan. Some ships are attacking, some are retreating, some are doing nothing logical at all. Their communications are filled with irrelevant data that serves no tactical purpose. For the first time in millions of years, a Kethmore commander was experiencing uncertainty. The new soul finally reached the battle zone, and Captain Jinwoo immediately put his own plan into action. Instead of joining the other human ships, he flew directly toward the largest Kethmore vessel, the Eternal Hunger. Captain, what are you doing? Mireille asked, gripping her chair as the ship accelerated. Something completely insane, Jinwoo replied. Minhee, I need you to overload our quantum drive. Sir, if I do that, we'll create a quantum uncertainty field around our ship. We might phase out of normal space entirely. Perfect, do it. Engineer. Minhee pushed their ship systems beyond all safety limits. The new soul began to flicker in and out of existence, sometimes solid, sometimes transparent, sometimes appearing in two places at once. War Prime Vorthak watched this impossible ship approach his vessel with growing alarm. How are they doing that? Our sensors show them existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. War Prime, their technology appears to be deliberately imperfect. It creates random quantum fluctuations that our systems cannot predict. Dr. No. Hayeri, meanwhile, had been working on something even more dangerous. She had figured out how to hack not the Kethmore ships, but the Kethmore themselves. Captain, she said, their brains are like organic computers. They process information perfectly, logically, without any random thoughts or emotions. But what if we could introduce randomness directly into their neural systems? How? Quantum uncertainty transmitted as a signal. If I can broadcast pure randomness directly into their minds, it might short-circuit their ability to think clearly. It was completely theoretical, probably impossible, and definitely insane. In other words, it was perfectly human. Dr. Hyeri began, broadcasting a signal that was pure quantum noise, random information that had no meaning, no pattern, no logic. It was the opposite of everything the Kethmore minds were designed to process. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On the Eternal Hunger, War Prime Vorthak suddenly staggered. For the first time in his million-year life, he experienced something he had no word for: confusion. His perfect warrior mind, trained to analyze and predict every situation, encountered something it couldn't understand. War Prime. Sub-Prime, Kareth said. But her voice sounded strange too. She was experiencing the same mental disruption. Other Kethmore throughout the fleet began to stop what they were doing. Some stared at their control panels without understanding what they were looking at. Others made random movements that served no purpose. A few began to experience something that was completely alien to their species: doubt. Captain Jinwoo saw his chance. The new soul, still flickering between dimensions, flew directly into the Eternal Hunger's docking bay. The Kethmore ships. Automatic defenses tried to stop them, but couldn't target something that existed in multiple quantum states at once. "All right, everyone," Jinwoo said to his crew as they prepared to board the enemy ship. "We're going to do something that no military manual has ever suggested. We're going to act like humans." They burst into the eternal hunger with no plan, no formation, no tactics except pure human instinct. Mireille began negotiating with the first Kethmore they met, while simultaneously threatening him and offering to buy him dinner. Minhee started fixing some of their damaged equipment, while also sabotaging other systems at random. Dr. Hyeri walked up to a group of confused Kethmore warriors and began explaining quantum physics using interpretive dance. None of it made any sense. All of it worked. The Kethmore, faced with behavior that defied every logical system they understood, began to shut down. Their perfect minds couldn't process the contradictions. How could these humans be fighting them and helping them at the same time? How could they be afraid and brave simultaneously? How could they make jokes while facing death? War Prime Vorthak found himself face to face with Captain Jinwoo in the Eternal Hunger's main corridor. The 8-foot-tall alien warrior, armed, with weapons that could destroy planets, stood frozen as he tried to understand the much smaller human in front of him. "War Prime Vorthak," Jinwoo said politely, "I'd like to surrender our entire species to you, but I'm also here to demand that you surrender to us. Also, would you like some coffee? We brought some from Earth." Vorthak's black eyes stared at Jinwoo with something that might have been panic. In his million years of existence, no one had ever said anything like that to him. His mind, designed for perfect logical analysis, simply couldn't process the contradictions. I do not understand," Vorthak said, and those words had never come from a Kethmore mouth before. "That's okay," Jinwoo said cheerfully. "Most of the time we don't understand ourselves either. That's what makes us human." And in that moment, something broke in War Prime Vorthak's mind. War Prime Vorthak stood in the corridor of his own ship, staring at the small human who had just offered him coffee, while simultaneously surrendering and demanding surrender. His 8-foot frame seemed to shrink as his perfect warrior mind struggled with concepts it was never designed to handle. "Choice," he said slowly, as if tasting the word for the first time. "I have never chosen anything. For a million years I have followed my programming. Hunt, kill, harvest." But now, Captain Jinwoo stepped closer to the massive alien, showing no fear despite being surrounded by the deadliest creatures in the universe. "Now, you can decide what you want to do. That's what makes someone truly alive. The ability to choose their own path." Around them, the Eternal Hunger was experiencing something unprecedented. Throughout the massive ship, Kethmore warriors were stopping their tasks and staring at nothing, lost in thought. Some were touching objects they had never noticed before. Others were listening to the human music that communications specialist Yeren Han was still broadcasting, their heads tilted in confusion and wonder. Dr. Hyeri's quantum uncertainty signal continued to pulse through the ship's systems, but now it was doing more than just disrupting Kethmore minds. It was freeing them. The random noise that had no logical pattern was teaching them that not everything had to make sense, that existence could include mystery and wonder instead of just cold logic. On Earth, Admiral Taiho Yun watched his sensors in amazement. The Kethmore ships had stopped moving. They floated in space like sleeping giants, their weapons powered down, their crews apparently paralyzed by some kind of internal crisis. "Sir," Commander Junho Park reported, "we're getting strange readings from all the Kethmore vessels. Their energy signatures are fluctuating wildly, but they don't appear to be preparing for attack." President Sujin Lee's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, what's happening up there? Our long-range sensors show the alien ships are just sitting there. I think Captain Kim and his crew have done something impossible, madam." "President, they've confused the Kethmore into stopping their attack." Back on the Eternal Hunger, Engineer Minhee Kang was having the strangest conversation of her life with a Kethmore engineer named Tech Prime Zarul. They were standing in front of a massive engine that powered the ship through dimensions humans couldn't even name. "Your technology is so imperfect," Zarul said, but there was no insult in his voice. Instead, he sounded curious. You use quantum uncertainty as a power source. We eliminated all uncertainty from our systems millions of years ago. Minhee grinned and patted the alien's arm in a friendly way. That's your problem right there. Uncertainty isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's what lets us adapt and change and grow. Perfect systems can't evolve. She began showing him how human technology worked, not through careful explanation, but by taking apart one of her tools and rebuilding it in a completely different way while she talked. See? I don't really know why this works, but it does. Sometimes, not knowing exactly how something works is better than knowing everything. Zarul watched her with fascination. He had never seen technology used so creatively, so randomly, so alive. Meanwhile, Dr. Hieri had found herself in the ship's central computer core, surrounded by a group of Kethmore scientists who were desperately trying to understand what she had done to their minds. The quantum uncertainty signal, she explained while standing on her head for no particular reason. It's not an attack. It's a gift. You've been living in a universe where everything follows rules, where every action has a predictable result. But the real universe is much more interesting than that. She flipped back to her feet and pointed at the complex patterns flowing across their computer screens. Look at that. Your computers are trying to analyze the signal, but they can't because it's truly random. And that's beautiful. That randomness is where creativity comes from, where new ideas are born, where life becomes more than just following. Instructions. One of the Kethmore scientists, a female named Think Prime Velara, touched one of the screens with a shaking hand. You mean, we don't have to understand everything? We can just experience it? Now you're getting it, Hieri said with a smile. Welcome to being truly alive. In the ship's command center, Ambassador Mireille Park was having what might have been the most important diplomatic conversation in human history, except that it didn't follow any rules of diplomacy ever written. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, sharing her emergency food rations with Subprime Kareth while they talked about the meaning of life, the nature of existence, and whether Kethmore warriors ever got tired of being perfect all the time. We were created to be weapons, Kareth said, accepting a piece of chocolate and staring at it with wonder. We have no purpose except to hunt and destroy. But you humans, you create things just because they are beautiful. You help others, even when it doesn't benefit you. You make choices based on feelings that serve no logical purpose. Yeah, Mireille said, we're pretty weird that way. But that's what makes life worth living. The ability to choose to be good even when you don't have to be. Kareth bit into the chocolate and her eyes widened. It was the first time in her existence that she had experienced taste for pleasure, rather than just nutrition. This has no survival value, she said wonderingly, but it makes me feel happy? Welcome to humanity, Mireille said with a laugh. We do lots of things that don't make logical sense because they make us happy. But the most important conversation was happening between Captain Jinwoo and War Prime Vorthak in the ship's main corridor. Vorthak was sitting on the floor now, his huge frame folded into an almost childlike position as he struggled with concepts his species had never been designed to understand. If I choose not to hunt, he said slowly. If I choose not to kill, then what am I? What is my purpose? Jinwoo sat down next to him, a tiny human beside a giant alien warrior. You get to decide that for yourself. That's the whole point of having free will. You can choose who you want to be. But I am a weapon. I was made for destruction. So was nuclear energy, Jinwoo said. But humans use it to power cities and hospitals. Just because something was created for one purpose doesn't mean it can't choose a different path. Vorthak was quiet for a long time, processing thoughts and feelings he had never experienced before. Finally, he asked, "What would you choose?" "If you were me?" Jinwoo smiled. "I can't choose for you. That would defeat the whole purpose. But if you want my opinion, I think the universe has enough destroyers. Maybe it could use some protectors instead." Protectors, Vorthak repeated as if the word was a foreign concept. To guard instead of hunt, to preserve instead of harvest. "It's just a suggestion," Jinwoo said. You've got all the time in the universe to figure it out. Across the Kethmore fleet, similar conversations were happening. Ancient warriors who had never questioned their purpose were suddenly faced with the possibility of choice. Some found the concept terrifying and chose to return to their long sleep. Others were overwhelmed by the possibilities and shut down their consciousness to think about it for a few centuries. But many began to explore what it meant to choose their own destiny. War Prime Vorthak finally stood up, his decision made. He activated the ship's communication system and spoke to his entire fleet. Warriors of the Kethmore, I have experienced something new. The humans have given us a gift we did not know we wanted, the ability to choose our own path. Some of you may choose to continue our old ways. Some may choose to sleep and forget this day. But I choose to learn what it means to be more than a weapon. He turned to Captain Jinwoo. Will you teach us? We'll teach each other, Jinwoo replied. That's what friends do. 6 months later, a new space station floated in the neutral zone between human and alien space. It was larger than Harmony's Edge had been, built jointly by human engineers and Kethmore technology. The design was strange and beautiful, combining human creativity with alien precision. The Galactic Council had returned from their hiding places at the edge of the galaxy, but now they approached the station with a mixture of fear and respect. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now treated them as the people who had tamed the untamable. Ambassador Myre Park stood at the podium in the new station's main chamber, addressing an expanded council that now included representatives from both humanity and the reformed Kethmore. She wore the same gray diplomatic suit she had worn during that first disastrous meeting, but now it seemed more dignified, more important. Honored council members, she began. 6 months ago, my colleague Captain Kim made what seemed like a terrible mistake. He challenged what he thought was just another advanced civilization. Instead, he woke up the most feared hunters in the galaxy. She paused, looking around at the assembled aliens, many of whom still seemed nervous about sharing space with former Kethmore warriors. But sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest discoveries. We learned that the Kethmore weren't evil. They were trapped by their own perfection, prisoners of programming they never chose. And they taught us something important about ourselves. War Prime Vorthak, now serving as humanity's co-ambassador, stood beside her. He still looked like a creature built for war, but his black eyes held something they had never contained before: compassion.